Hello, dragons and dungeon keepers. My name is TBSKYEN, and welcome back to Battle Chasers Night War. So, last time I mostly spent, like, the entirety of the video just gushing about how pretty this game is, and good lord, is this a very pretty game. But it's also a very long game, so we are not gonna be gushing specifically about all the aesthetics the whole way through, because that would inevitably get very old. Instead, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna just be doing gameplay. And anytime I see something interesting, something worth remarking upon, something that I might have something curious to say about, well, I'm gonna spend some time talking about it, and hopefully that will make for an interesting video series. And we'll keep this going either until I complete the game, which, you know, it's a 10-hour game, it's a lot of half-hour episodes, or until it stops getting views or people get bored of it. Whichever one comes first. Either way, I saw the comments from the previous video that a bunch of people were enticed to purchase the game based on my recommendations of the aesthetics, and I hope you're happy playing this game, as happy as I am just looking at it. So, a comment I got on the last video as well was that people would like me to take a look at the original Battle Chasers comic as well, and then that's a thing of if these videos are, you know, relatively popular as content, that is just like if people watch them and people are interested in them, then yes, I will take a look at the original Battle Chasers comic at some point, and start folding in some observations about that compared to like the continuation and the aesthetics in the game. But that's going to be a little bit later down the line. It depends on whether you know, there is interest in this particular in seeing more of this particular video series. Anyway, we are knocking on some doors. Special currency of some sort. It's not microtransactions, just in case anyone's wondering. This is some currency that you find in-game, as far as I remember, but I can't actually remember where you find it or how you get it. But there are different skins that you can get for the characters, which, if we can get a hold of them, I'd love to talk about in relationship specifically to, like, how skins work in other video games like League of Legends and sort of the online cosmetic stuff. And how, you know, just the design aesthetics that go into them. Because, again, I'm so in love with... Rip this sign out and throw it in the dirt. Let's not do that. That's evil. I like this lady a lot, by the way. This is where I do enjoy the design, character design aesthetic. Like we've talked about already, this is like classic super high fantasy, super like really cheesy, really kind of over-the-top, sort of the very 90s anime-inspired fantasy aesthetic. And so you get the ridiculously proportioned lady warriors who have like no armor on and their boobs out for no good reason, but rather than being, you know, skinny, waifish bikini babes, you do get characters like Beastmaster Raha here, who is, like, she genuinely does look like, even though she doesn't wear armor, she could probably take you down. Like, even if you come at her with, like, a weapon, she looks like she has the physical strength to be a real threat no matter what, which is always... That's the other half of the problem with the, you know, the skimpy armor bikini babe in like a lot of fantasy stuff, is that they never actually look like they're that dangerous. Like, they never really look like they are super agile, powerful fighters who don't need to wear armor. This lady looks like, plausibly, you could say, okay, even without armor, she's probably still a threat. Which, like, it doesn't mean the design isn't kind of cheesy and silly and stupid, but it does make it feel a little bit more coherent, rather than just feeling like ridiculous fan service. Like, it's still fan service. Oh boy, is it fan service, but like it's more coherent with the world. Like, it still feels like, okay, this is a world where if you are good enough at fighting, you don't need to wear any kind of sensible armor. Alright, we can buy that so long as the character actually looks like they're capable at fighting. We're going to be talking about that later, once we get to the, one of the Lost Party members, Red Sonja. Was that her name? Red something? Call her Red for now. I keep forgetting her name. Once we get to her, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the sort of the busty fantasy babe design archetype and some of the problems that comes along with it. And like it is still like, I think it's fair to get a little bit annoyed at it that the ladies in this game do tend to be somewhat less dressed than the dudes. And that's the kind of thing that's a little bit bullshit. It's like, if you're giving us the lady eye candy, you should also give us the dude eye candy. Like, if I'm a lady who likes watching, like, big dudes and skinny thongs and stuff like that, there should be something in the game for me as well. Like, that's just fair. Anyway, as I recall, this lady pretty much just delivers you some side quests to do with defeating particularly difficult monsters. Combat challenges, essentially.
Hunt well.
Hunt well. And I know I skipped through the dialogue a little bit quickly, but I promise you the dialogue there was not actually very important.
You're the town smith?
Hey, who the hell are you?
And here we have the stereotypical, oh, the smith has a hammer and a beard and he's Scottish for some reason.
That's a rough way to greet strangers.
Being strangers, you don't know how rough we get around here.
Not sure it's a really good Scottish accent either. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the voice acting in this game. And people ask me in the comments of the last episode why I'm not a huge fan of the voice acting in this game. And it's because it's highly unemotional. Like, it really lacks emotional inflection most of the time. If you think back to the intro cinematic, it's like, they're under attack, they're flying on the ship, they're dodging cannonballs in the sky and stuff like that. And the line delivery is like, "Meh, we're under attack. You have to shoot back." With what? This is like, they're talking like they're just like hanging out in a place and not undergoing physical strain trying to hold on to this tiny stealth vessel, dodging sky pirates, and like, that's the thing I really don't like about it, is that the emotion of the delivery does not match the scene in the slightest. That's also, by the way, my problem with especially the male voice in Mass Effect, is that they're just so even and unemotional most of the time. And it's like, it's something that's been a problem with video game voice acting for a long time, is that so much of it is just the character's delivery does not match at all what's supposed to be going on in the story, and like, especially Japanese. That's a whole other conversation that's nothing to do with this game.
We're gonna learn quickly.
Aye, skin's got to be thick to survive in a forsaken land like this one. And your hammer better be heavy. Speaking of forsaken lands, how did you lot end up here?
We came in on an airship. As we approached, pirates ambushed us.
Seems right enough. Though not quite pirates, as you see. Bandits. Simple as that. Just thugs full of hot air. But they've been a right pain in the arse recently.
Bandits. Who do they work for?
Well, being bandits. Themselves, mostly.
This guy is also a gorgeous piece of character. It's like, because he's again, we're dealing with high fantasy, so he's the utter stereotype of, you know, oh, the blacksmith. He's got the mechanical automail arm thing, like the mechanical prosthetic arm, because he's lost an arm, because he's the blacksmith, so he has to have a design element that ties him to machinery and mechanics and stuff like that. He's got the big ornate hammer, the giant beard, the big arms. He's like, and I'm Scottish, and I'm definitely not a dwarf, but I act like a stereotype of a dwarf in the game, and I have a Scottish accent that's as bad as this one.
Well said. They're acting differently the last few moons. Less scatterbrained, more organized. As a few
He's called
Grimbeard.
Grimbeard. That's also a thing.
We were separated from some friends during the battle. We think they may have them, or know where they are. We'd like to chat with them.
Chat. A few weaklings came by causing trouble last dawn. Chased them off down the south road. You can head that way, if you think you'll find your friends.
If we don't, they'll regret it.
Keep your head up. They must have a camp down there somewhere. Interrupted my work. Come on in. What do you...
I thought I could buy something from him. Oh well.
A drink, friend. Sit.
Okay, so rest, browse wares, anything useful. I should get a fishing pole, shouldn't I? But I can't really afford it yet.
Come on in. Safe day.
Oh well. Down by the south road. A terrible Scottish accent. And again, a very nice character design. He's apparently some kind of alchemist something. So let's make him the most alchemist character that we possibly can, with like allusions to nobility with like his fancy dress and the mask, and allusions to plague doctors with the long nose on the mask thing. And he's got, let's give him a top hat with some feathers in just to evoke Baron Samedi as well from like voodoo tradition. That's the thing I like about the character design aesthetic in this game, is like when it, okay, we are a high fantasy thing, and we are a classic, just over-the-top, stupid, cheesy high fantasy thing, so let's just be that. Let's not pretend like that's not exactly what's going on. And I quite like that. Okay, he doesn't want to talk to us. One complaint I have is that the walking speed on the overworld is a little on the short side, a little on the slow side, rather. So, is there anything to talk about particularly with battle? No. Just like, again, the animation quality is really, really high in this game. Like, especially, I do want to at some point grab some of this footage and just frame by frame my way through it. Just to really get a look at, like, the division of frames and just how good the animation in this damn game really is. Because, like, it really is very effective. Again, I have to knock on Garrison a little bit. He's so tiny in the battle scenes. It's so weird that he is so tiny. Especially with Calibretto up there. Maybe if I change their order on the battlefield, it'll help if I can do that. But Garrison consistently is the least interesting character among all of them, at least to me. And it's not that he's bad particularly, he's just not... Like, he's got that attack animation to him, which really doesn't have as strong of an arc as I'd like to see with him. Hey. Level up. Okay, can I change their... No, because I can't mess with the party yet. Until I have enough party members that I can change them out. Oh well. Let's go find the bandits. The bandits. Oh, aye. I'm gonna make fun of that Scottish accent for the rest of my days. In fairness, I'm not Scottish. Like, maybe that's a really good Scottish accent, and I just don't know about it because I'm not Scottish, but... But there is a specific type of Scottish accent that's really popular in, like, entertainment media, which is just not at all like the Scottish accent that actual Scottish people have. And again, just, this is a basic bat enemy, right? Like, the most basic bat enemy that you encounter at the start of the game, and yet look at just how way the heck over the top they've gone with making this thing look scary. It's like, it's got the ragged wings and the spikes on it and big jaws and big teeth and the giant ears and red glowing eyes. This game has no chill with its aesthetics. That's the thing that really kind of charms me. Is just no chill whatsoever. We go 100 on everything. Combo. That means multiple battles in a row. And you can have a number of battles in a row, but this basically turns them into more of an endurance thing, because like you've been seeing so far is I've been killing like every enemy in 1 or 2 hits, basically. And then combo battles are essentially a system that, as far as I can tell, exists in order to ensure that you can't just like one-shot your way through all the fights, that you can't just like you can't use your mana too freely, that you have to use the overcharge ability, like the thing of the more you punch, the more you attack the enemies, the more extra mana you get. So it's there to force you to use that system, which becomes especially apparent later on. Boom, boom, boom. Let's just punch them. Pow! I also love the FX animation, which is like the little lighting effects and stuff that happens around the attacks, especially when Gully uses her scatter shot when she pulls a boulder out of the ground. Those little flares of dust that come up around the boulder, they're so effective because, like, it's such, again, it's about adding an epic feeling to behavior that is actually completely and utterly mundane, which the thing of pulling a stone out of the ground and throwing it like that, she's throwing a stone at the enemy, which is such a mundane type of attack, but then let's make it a really big boulder instead. Let's have all this dust effects coming out when she, like, tears it out of the ground, just to make it look cooler. Which is part of, like, because I'm not gonna lie, the combat in this game can get repetitive, especially early on. Like, as you've been seeing, I've literally only just been punching enemies to death over and over again. And something that really helps that not feel so boring and repetitive is when you have good attack animations, when you have good animation in combat in general. Because even though you've seen the animation 100 times before, if it's really good, it's always just a little nice, just a little pleasurable to see it. And it's not like it never gets old, but it helps it stay fresh a lot longer. So this is an exploration area. These are essentially the dungeons that you go through in the game. And here you can see they've reused the tile set from the place that we crash landed originally, which is this, like, lush forest area. But they've changed the dynamic of the place by changing the lighting. Now, this is something that you can only really do if you have a well-designed aesthetic, if you have a well-designed palette in the video games that... Because, like, if you have a palette that's heavily reliant on the ambient lighting in whatever scene you're using in order to look good, and so, like, if you choose your colors incorrectly, if you choose your contrasts and your values, especially the values is this is a thing in art where think about it in terms of the difference between a dark gray and a light gray is value, essentially. Like, it's how bright is the color. And so you can have a red and a green that have the exact same value. They have a different color, but they have the same brightness. And that means that if you take away the color and make them black and white, then they will become the exact same shade of gray. And that's called values. And if you put two colors next to each other that have extremely close values, or which have values that get washed out as you remove the saturation from the color and turn it more and more towards gray, then you can get an aesthetic that works perfectly well when it's fully lit, but when you put it in a dark scene where you don't have a lot of light and everything becomes grayer and grayer and sort of the color gets washed out, all of a sudden the aesthetic becomes completely indistinct and incoherent and you can't tell things apart because you haven't managed the values correctly. And that's a really difficult discipline, by the way. Like, that's something that's so easy to screw up. Which is something, again, which is the reason why this game can get away with just slapping a different lighting palette on essentially the same assets, is because they have been mindful of the values, that it doesn't end up looking like a complete washout. And this is the kind of stuff I nerd out about. And it's something to notice, by the way, is if you are an artist, it's worth, when you're making any picture, to turn it into black and white just to see... or turn into grayscale, rather, and see if the values of your things clash. Because if they do, you might want to consider changing them, because it's also an accessibility issue for people who are completely colorblind, like who are not just red-green colorblind and the common colorblindnesses, but who are completely colorblind. If you don't have good value distinction, it can be really hard for people to tell things apart. And that's why a lot of video games will have specific colorblind modes that change some of the color values around, so that if a person is red-green colorblind, for instance, that the colors that they're blind to don't accidentally mesh too much together with another one and make certain parts of the game difficult to see. In League of Legends, that's a huge issue, because if you can't see an ability because the ability's visual effects have the same value as the ground underneath them, it becomes invisible and it becomes impossible to dodge. And that's a huge issue if you are a colorblind person, which, like, I think it's something like it's really, really common to be some version of colorblind if you're male. Like, it's a really normal... I can't remember exactly what statistic it, but it's a very normal thing, and it's something you really have to look out for. Ambush! Okay. Oh, I remember. So that War Machine right there has 100% a Warcraft aesthetic to it. And not having read the comic, I can't tell you if this aesthetic came if this is taking this particular video game is taking inspiration from Warcraft, or whether Warcraft took inspiration from stuff like Battle Chasers back in the day. I'd be curious to know that. I really should look up that comic, actually. Oh, and by the way, in terms of game design, every time I hit that thing with a physical attack, I take damage. Bam. Not much damage, but I do take some damage. And just having the knives on the front of it is just a lovely way to communicate that. I'm gonna punch it anyway, because the dude up top is invisible, and so attempting to attack him is not really gonna do me that much good. There we go. There he is. Okay, just gonna punch him in the head to sunder his armor. There we go. And then we are going to cleave him. And then we are going to use protection? No. No protection. But we're going to do scatter shot on that thing. See if that doesn't work. Still take damage back even with a long range attack. Oh well. Again, that's such a good way to do that type of attack. I should heal. And I should get rid of that thing because it's annoying me. Yeah, see, here is where we start to see that the game actually does have a little bit of difficulty to it. Garrison is nearly dead at this point, after just 2 attacks from that guy, and 1 from the armored charger thing. So, like, the game actually does have some significant difficulty spikes here and there, which I think I brought up in the previous video as well, that there were some times in this game when you will be dealing with sometimes when you will be dealing with like a boss that requires you to behave in a certain way in order to beat him, which can be a little bit on the annoying side. And let's grab that one. You can sell the awesome stuff. Yeah, very good. Let's just heal a little bit for no good reason. Open up the barrel. Open up the crates. Search all the things. La da 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 dings. Sweet. So Garrison has this overworld dash ability that's used to get you past environmental hazards and traps in the various dungeons. Oh yeah, this is like, you can see the Warcraft influence right there in that splash screen really clearly. So we are in essence still doing the tutorial of the game at this point. Like, as you could tell when like they introduced the combo battle while I was walking down here, and you got the ambush thing. You're supposed to, during that ambush, to actually get attacked from behind, which as far as I remember does mean that you get ambushed with a, like, you lose the ability to do first strike in the combat phase. But because I knew that there was an ambush and where he was coming from, it was pretty easy to avoid. Can't go through the gate. Gotta go back to town. As I recall from the last time I played this game, when I played it for about 10 hours, it's really linear. Like there's really like you can go and explore in the overworld and you can find treasures and optional dungeons and stuff like that, but it's not like there's multiple story paths at any point in this game.
I believe we found the bandit you chased out of town. In his possession was a letter we were unable to fully decipher.
Right, let's have a look. Yeah, ink looks fresh. Says something about an ancient weapon.
Anything else?
Outsiders arriving at the island, likely to complicate things.
Outsiders? Does that mean us?
Well, it's hard to make out entirely. But it speaks of the Iron Outpost, that can be sure.
What's that? And where is it?
Mightiest military fortification south of the snows. Long abandoned. But bandits have been going in and out a lot lately. Sky's no way. Gate north of town is locked to keep people from wandering that way. Here's the key. Well, you look likely to survive. But just in case, I've got a fine weapon or two for sale here that may come in handy. If the talking turns to fighting. Some others around town have useful wares as well. You might ask around, see what you can find. If they answer your knocks, that is. There's work to do.
Okay, let's browse some wares. So that is actually a good investment, but I can only buy one thing unless I sell some stuff first. Let's get rid of these and get rid of that. This is all crafting stuff, so I might not want to get rid of that.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Indeed. Question is, do I want to go for defense, or do I want to go for crafting recipe? Not sure. Useless plating. Riveting gameplay, only on the TBSKYEN YouTube channel. I already have an arm cannon for Calibretto, so it's probably no need to do that, and rather I should get some defense on him.
I'll be here.
And once I have equipped this stuff, well... Oh, it's way worse. In several ways. Okay. Oh, no, it's not. It's just got worse stamina, physical defense, and magic defense, but it does do a lot for his attack power. So, we're equipping that one, and that is about half an hour. So, I'm going to cut this episode here, and I'll just tell you that if you have particularly enjoyed it, well, I encourage you to hit the like button. It's very helpful to hit the like button. It's good. So the sages tell us who descend from on high on their mountains to inform us of what the mighty YouTube algorithm wants. Also subscribe, comment on the thing, and do all the other stuff. And I have a Patreon if you want. Christmas is coming up, so like if you want to help me buy some presents for my family, then Patreon, you can help me do that over there. And if you're not willing or able to support a Patreon right now because Christmas is coming up and Christmas is expensive, of course, that's completely okay. I'm just glad you've watched this video at all. If you have not liked this video, then there's a dislike button down below. And, you know, if you look at it and, like, maybe it looks a little weird, like it doesn't quite look like a real dislike button, and you're like, something's fishy about this. Well, you know what? Don't worry. Don't, like, and if, like, don't turn around either. Like, there's nobody behind you. I promise there's no one behind. We don't, like, why would someone ambush you? Like, just because you think, like, the dislike button couldn't be a trap. It's like, why would someone do that? You are being paranoid. You are being very paranoid right now. The dislike button is perfectly safe, and you can just click it and nothing bad will happen at all. I promise you. I promise you. Thank you very much for watching.